Everybody, Master Reactor here, and today we have another replay versus Mar 93. As you can tell, I've been doing pretty well recently with this deck I threw together. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row. I have won 7 in a row. Let's fucking go. So let's see how this game went. I throw paper, he throws paper. I throw paper, he throws rock. So I get to go first. Alright, that's great. I open Spy, Chaos Orc, Nox, Snatch, Thunder Dragon, and Solemn. He's got Spy, Jar Greed, MST, Breaker, and Fate. So my hand is pretty ass right now. And I set Solemn and say go. Set Solemn and Spy and say go. He draws into, I don't know, Chaos Sork or some shit. But he sets his Spy, sets Jar of Greed and MST and says go. I draw into a Jar of Greed. I decide to flip my Spy up. I could have literally just won game one if I would have just switched both of these to attack mode. And just swung bada. Would have been a totally different game, but my dumbass put one to defense, worried about Mirror Force. It really wouldn't have mattered if he Mirror Forced me because he wastes his Mirror Force anyways. So I definitely should have did that. But I didn't. So I put one in defense and I swing on him for 1200. And obviously he takes it because he has nothing. I set one and pass. He end phase hits Jar Greed. And then he end phase Jar Greed. So he draws into Thunder Dragon and Night Assailant. He runs the Breaker out. Probably should have Solemn this right here, because he would have dropped Chaos Orc and I could have snatched it. So instead, I just don't do anything and let him tack over the shit. And you see, I would have won because I could have snatched deal to shit, summoned. It's like I had like 6,200 or 6,100 worth of damage here. So that extra 1,200 would have came in clutch because I could have just snatched steal to shit. Drop the Chaos Orc, run out the Sang in, swing bada, and beat him. But instead, it's not how it went. Instead, I just dropped Chaos Orc here and banished the shit. And I decided just to run Sangin out and swing bada for 1,000. He draws into a deco. He sets Night Assailant and says go. I switch to Chaos Orc and swing. He pops my Chaos Orc. And I hit him for another 1,000. Now he's at 48. I set Sinister and say go. He draws in a Jar of Greed. He drops the Chaos Orc now. Sets Deco and Jar of Greed. I run out Breaker and break. Of course, it's a Jar of Greed. And I decide just to crash. He draws into Pot of Greed with Deco. So now the top decking has begun. I could have literally just beat him last turn if I would have just switched the shit. Instead, I just say go. He Pot agrees me. He draws in Delinquent Duo. The shit's a wrap. There's nothing I can do now. I'm just going to the next game because this shit is over with. He got me game one. Congratulations. I fucked that game all the way up to the fullest. So let's see what happens game two after me fucking up completely game one. By not just switching the Spy to attack mode, all I had to do was just attack him with both Spies, and I would have won that turn. So forget about that. Let's see game two. Game two, I got Tsukiyomi, Knock, Trap Dust Shoot, Ring, Jar Greed, and Sinister Serpent. He's got Knock, Spy, Mind Control, Chaos Orc, and Pot of Greed. So I'm just going to set 3 and pass here. He draws into Upstart Goblin. I decide to fire the Trap Dust Shoot. And I get his Spy and put his Spy back. He fires the Upstart into Return and then Pot of Greeds into Thunder Dragon and Mind Control, so he really doesn't have anything here. He gets his Thunder Dragons. He sets Return and says go. I draw into Breaker, which is a great draw because I just break that Return. Get that bullshit card out of here. No one plays that shit except for Morrow 93, I guess. I hit him for 16 and say go. He draws into a Sangin. He decides to just run the Sangin out and say set Mind Control and say go. So I draw into an upstart. I fire the upstart into Thunder Dragon. I discard the Thunder Dragon, grab 2 more. And I decide to draw a Greed. And I draw into Delinquent Duo, which is a good draw. I put the Sengen face down and swing Bada for 27. Hit him for the 27. And then main phase 2, I duo his ass. And I pick the Chaos Sork out of his hand. That was a good fucking hit. He sets Wing Blast and says go. I draw into a Wing Blast. I decide just to go into battle and swing. And he decides to just take it. He sets a deco and says go. I draw into Great Swole, which is a great draw. He says okay. I draw into Knock, Chaos Sork, and Faith. I decide to knock and banish all my decos, and I decide to swing Bada. And he's tired of taking it, so he Wing Blasts it. I set the Tsukiyomi as a bluff. He tries to mind control it. I'm like, alright, cool. It's a Tsukiyomi, it ain't shit. He runs his Kaiku out. I ring that shit, 1800. Now he's even lower. He's at 1300. He sets a knock and a mind control. I end phase, put 1 back on top, and he scoops. So we're going to game 3 now. Game 3, he gets to go first. This is another interesting game. Game 1 was great for him. Game 2, good for me. So game 3, let's see. See how I play this. He opens Duo, Faith, Knock, Kaiku, and Jar Greed. I've got BLS, Chaos Sork, Deco Heavy, and Thunder Dragon. He duos me, and first of all, he picks... Oh, he picks Thunder Dragon. I thought he accidentally picked Deco, but it's fine. He got Thunder Dragon. I throw out Deco. He sets Magician of Faith and Jar of Greed and says go. Now, I'm reading this as Jar of Greed, and I was spot on, so instead of firing this MST, I'm like, let me just sit on it and just wait. So I dropped the big boy himself, BLS, right away. Bring him out. Use the effect. Banish the shit. Let's go. And I decide to set MST and say go. He in phase, he Jar of Greeds. And then he draws into a spy. He sets Kaiku. Now I decide to end phase, just in case he's got rings. So I draw into Book of Moon, which is a great draw. I decide just to banish again, get the free plus, and set Book of Moon and say go. He top decks Pot of Greed, must be nice. He draws into Night Assailant and Faith. He sets the Night Assailant. I use the BLS again to banish the shit. And I discard the Thunder Dragon. He sets Deco. I draw into a Dust Shoot. I use the BLS again. And now I Dust Shoot him and see what he has. I pick his Spy. He literally has nothing now. I draw into a Knock. I probably should have saved this Knock right here. But instead, I just knocked it and hit him for 3k. Put him at 4k. He Jar Greeds into a perfect Regeki break. That's fucking awesome. And I just say go. He draws into return. He's come back in this game now because of the Regeki break. I had Book of Moon to protect him, but it doesn't protect against Regeki break. Standby phase. He Regeki breaks my shit. I draw into Sinister. My dumbass sets it, even though I knew he had knock. I still set it, but it's all good. He upstarts into a Snatch Steal. He knocks my shit. And then he flips Fate and gets his Pot of Greed back. Draws 2 more. Draws into MST and Tribe. Okay. All I have is a Book of Moon now. He decides to just crash and hit me for 300. I draw on a Dust Shoot, which is pretty dead. I set it. He end phase MSTs it. He draws in the Wing Blast. He sets it and says go. I draw in the Mirror Force. I set the Mirror Force and say go. He draws in the Heavy Storm. He just says go. I draw into Fate. I decide just to summon the Fate because I think he has my controller knock, even though he didn't have it. But I said fuck it. And I have Book of Moon anyway, so he draws into his Thunder Dragon. He discards his Thunder Dragon and grabs 2 more. And now he decides to run the tribe out and hit my faith. And I decide to book a moon the faith and get back my MST. Okay, and that's all he can do. Or no, he decides to set heavy and say go. I draw into Solemn Judgment. Okay, I set Solemn and set MST and say go. He draws into Ring of Destruction. He decides to try to heavy me. I instantly Solemn it. And now he Wing Blasts the new one, which is MST. So I'm like, alright, cool. Put it back on top. He tributes this and tries to swing with both. And I activate Mirror Force. So now he's left with just a Ring and a Snatch. He sets one and passes. I draw into MST. I decide just to heavy it. And it was a good heavy. I set MST and say go. He draws into Chaos Sork. He has no darks. I draw into Breaker, which is a great top deck. And he thinks he's going to Snatch Steel, but he knows I have MST, so fucking funny. He draws into Mirror Force. He tries to Snatch Steel. See, I would have big brained. I would have just set the Mirror Force and let him, or I would have set both of them or some shit. I don't know what I would have did. Who knows? But I wouldn't have. I don't know. It wouldn't have mattered, I guess, because I would have just fucking popped it. So now he's literally at 2100, and this shit is over with. He tried to MST. I mean, he tried to Snatch Steal my Breaker. I break the shit. I tribute the Breaker for Thunder Dragon and drop the Chaos Sork and swing bada bada. That is the game, people. Damn, after beating the game one, I came back and outplayed them, both of them games. So y'all hit the like, hit the sub. Have a good day or night. Peace out. Bye.